What began as a missing persons case that shook the nation and rocked the internet into sleuth mode has now become a homicide investigation in the wake of the coroner's ruling on the body of Gabby Petito. But this video isn't just meant to rehash the tragic true crime story of Gabby Petito unfolding in front of us. Rather, it is a video meant to spur a conversation between yourself and myself, any self, that I personally feel needs to be had about topics such as the bystander effect, police intervention, victim testimony, the division of responsibility, and to answer what I think are two questions in the back of a lot of people's minds right now. That being, what more could have been done in this situation to help Gabby, and why didn't anyone intervene prior? I think I can answer both, but you may not thank me for it. Gabby Petito was a 22-year-old aspiring influencer who had been working as a pharmacy tech to put money aside for a 4-month-long cross-country road trip with her then-fiancé, Brian Laundrie. The couple had met while attending Bayport Blue Point High School of Long Island, New York. While saving up, the couple had been living at the Laundrie family home for a year in Northport, Florida. On July 2nd, Gabby and her fiancé, Brian, would embark on their trip from New York, where they had been visiting with Gabby's parents to celebrate her brother's graduation, documenting their travels through their Instagram and YouTube accounts and tagging it with the hashtag #VanLife. On August 12th, a concerned citizen called 911 to report a domestic dispute between the traveling couple in Moab, Utah.
Grant County Sheriff's Office.
Were you able to get a description of the intoxication?
Hi, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, I'm calling. I'm right on the corner of Main Street by Moonflower, and we're driving by, and I'd like to report a domestic dispute. Florida with the white van, Florida license plate, white land, gentleman,
Where's it at?
5'6", beard. They just drove off. They're going down Main Street. They made a right onto Main Street from Moonflower.
Or what were they doing?
Cooperative, but what'd you say?
What were they doing?
We drove by, and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
He was slapping her?
Yes, and then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off.
The Moab police pulled the couple over, and the resulting body cam footage is what we have of the incident. It has been cut down for the sake of time, but there are links in the description if you should feel the need to catch the footage yourself. I took the liberty of splicing the two body camera footages from both Moab police officers that arrived on scene to give a clear string of events available on the second channel. At least the full thing is. It's about 53 minutes long, give or take a few seconds, and it does a really good job of showing everything in context, I think. These are the main highlights from that video that are relevant to this video here. Responding to a possible domestic violence call near a grocery store in Moab about 140 miles southeast of Provo, our primary officer notices a white Ford Transit van going about 45 miles in a 15-mile-per-hour speed zone. After turning on his lights to pull over the vehicle, the van swerves and strikes the curb before coming to a complete stop. The officer, as he approaches, notices the passenger is in visible distress and has the passenger step out of the vehicle to separate from the driver.
We're crying.
I'm sorry, we've just been fighting this morning. Some personal issues.
It was a long day. We were camping yesterday, and camping got stuff, flies and stuff. I'm sorry I hit the bump there.
I was distracting him from driving. I'm sorry.
Can I get you to step out of the vehicle for me, man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi,
My name's Eric. I'm with Moab Police. What's your name?
Gabby.
Gabby, how old are you?
I'm 22.
What happened? What's going on?
I'm just having a very stressed morning.
Yeah. Is this your husband or boyfriend?
My fiance.
Fiance? Is he a pretty good guy?
Yeah.
What happened over at Moonflower?
Well, I was just really stressed this morning trying to get a lot of work done, and I was apologizing to him. I had thrown a bunch of stuff in the bag, and all our bags are back there, and I was just apologizing. I was like, I'm sorry that I get so stressed out because I have OCD, and I was just like organizing stuff, and sometimes I just have a mean attitude, but I'm not trying to be mean. about straightening things up and stuff, so I was just apologizing, but I guess I said it in like a mean tone, and he got really frustrated with me, and he locked me out of the car and told me to go take a breather, but I didn't want to take a breather, because I wanted to get going. We're out of water.
So it kind of made you more upset.
Yeah,
it didn't help calm you, it made you more upset.
Yeah. And,
so then what happened?
And, so our goal was to come here and come refill our water.
Are you guys living out of the van right now? On travels?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was just really.
So what happened after he locked you out? I told you to take a breather.
Well, he walked away to go take his own breather, but I wanted to sit in the car because all my stuff was in the car. I had none of my bags. I was working on something at the moment in the car, and he told me to just relax for a second, and I didn't want to relax, so I got really mad. And, I mean, I don't need to be mad.
Yeah, that happens. Then what happened?
And then I told him to drive and get water because I was really thirsty.
Yeah? Is there something on your cheek here? Looks like, did you get hit in the face? Kind of looks like something like hit you in the face. And then over on your arm, shoulder, right here. That's new, huh? It's kind of a new mark.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Can I see the other side of your face? So, what happened here and here?
I'm not sure. It was
First name
really
Brian.
fast. I was just trying to get in the back of the car, and his backpack was on the back.
Alpha uniform.
Got me.
So the backpack got you? So there's two people that came to us and told us that they saw him hit you. There's two people saying that they saw him punch you. We're just independent witnesses by Moonflower.
Well, to be honest, I definitely hit him first.
Where'd you hit him?
I slapped him in the face.
You slapped him first? And then just on his face?
And he kept telling me to shut up.
How many times did you slap
Bravo,
him?
Romeo, India, Alpha.
Just a couple.
And then what? And his reaction was to do what?
Grabbed my arm, so I wouldn't slap him.
He just grabbed you?
Yeah.
Did he hit you though? I mean, it's okay if you're saying you hit him, and then I understand if he hit you, but we want to know the truth if he actually hit you.
I guess, yeah, but I hit him first.
Where did he hit you? Don't worry, just be
Well,
honest.
he grabbed my face, like, I guess. He didn't hit me in the face, like, he didn't punch me in the face or anything.
Did he slap your face or what?
Well, he grabbed me with his nail, and I guess that's why it looks. I definitely have a cut right here because I could feel it when I touch it. It burns. But
okay. So has he been drinking?
no, we don't drink.
Okay. What was up with his driving? This officer said he hit a curb.
I hit him.
While you were driving?
Well, he was driving.
While he was driving, you were hitting him?
Well, not a lot, but yeah.
And that was distracting him while he's driving? Are you
Not only for like a second, only because I saw the lights come on, and I kind of
Did you already tell him all this?
I didn't get that far into
Okay,
it.
so
She was hyperventilating.
She's
a
saying
little
that they don't drink, but at the point when you lit them up,
We don't drink or anything.
She started hitting him.
I was yelling at him, and then when you turned your lights on, I kind of punched his arm, like there's an idiot.
she's saying was why he hit the curb. You said it was Gabby?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm really bad. Name was Gabby?
Yeah.
Okay. You okay, Gabby? Do you have medication for anxiety you take or anything? Do you take any medication for any...
I just do yoga and
try to meditate and stuff? But you tend to have a lot of anxiety and stress?
I have a lot of anxiety.
And what's his name? Is it Brian? Is he usually pretty patient with you?
Yeah, but it just makes me upset. I know that he definitely gets frustrated with me a lot because I have a lot of anxiety, and he definitely has anxiety too.
Oh, that could be a bad combo if you both have anxiety. I have anxiety too, and my girlfriend, my girlfriend's really, really calm, and she has a way of taking my anxiety and bringing it down. But my ex-wife, that's why she's my ex-wife, I'm just sharing, I know it's a little personal, but to help you understand, we would feed off each other's anxiety and it would spiral. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how much I loved her. It may be bad for your soul. Just saying. I'm not telling you what to do with your life, but if you know you have anxiety, look at the situations you can get in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're not here to be mean to you or anything. Well, there's a first time, and then it usually. We'll go see what Brian's saying, but I think you've heard everything now from.
Quick question. You said you were hitting him in the arm. Did you grab the steering wheel?
No, I didn't.
You did not touch the
I
steering wheel?
didn't touch the steering wheel, but only for like a second, because I just saw the lights come on, and it was more just like, you're an idiot. Like, you know.
But did you grab the steering wheel and like
No.
swerve or anything like that?
No. I didn't touch the steering wheel at all.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and close this door again. Do you have enough air back here, or do you want me to kick it up some more?
Do you have any water?
I will see if I can find some.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Don't mind. Start at the beginning for me. Over.
Start at the beginning. Well, I don't want to go too far back, but we've been in Beyond Land for the past like week or so, traveling around, and the flies here are like pretty intense. So the flies have definitely been getting to her, and then my feet are dirty and everything. So I think that our little squabble started because we were hanging out at the coffee shop, and when we got back to the van, there was some dirt and stuff in the van, and I moved our food around. It was a little disorganized, so she gets a little.
Will you take those two? Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Do you need any water?
It's okay.
It's hot out here.
We were going to get water because we ran out, but it's okay. No, it's alright. I don't like plastic bottles. It's okay. Thank you, though. But we just had a little disagreement there. And the disagreement was just that she was getting a little worked up, and I was saying, no, it's okay. Thank you so much.
As long as it's cool, that's good.
So it was just more of a disagreement, and I just wanted to say...
What was the disagreement about?
It was, I wouldn't even call it disagreement. It was just that I'm dirty and I can't change being dirty. Like I got dirty feet, I got sand on my flip-flops and stuff like that. It was that we were at the coffee shop for so long because we were there from 9 to 3. So I guess there's a few little things, little relationships. I don't know if you have a relationship, but I'm sure you have.
I've been married for over 5 years now. So.
There's a lot of little things. Right?
Yeah, I can go.
And
I get it.
We really, we weren't physical before the point where I said, all right, let's just take a breather and like walk away for a minute. I'll lock the van up and I'll go for a walk this way, and you can go walk that way in the block. You know, there's that what is it called, Moonflower?
Right, yeah.
You know, nice areas. You can go either way. It's all shaded. So let's go for a little walk and breather, come back. Because we're happy with it. But she's, I'm not upset with her. She got a little worked up, and she had her phone in her hand and her keys and everything. And she wanted, not her keys, her rings. She had her rings, her phone. And I was holding on to the keys because I didn't want to go anywhere. And my big fear is, I don't have my phone. I don't have a phone. So she goes off without me. With a car, I'm on my own. So I was saying, let's just go for a walk, and she was trying to get the keys for me. So I was just going, just wait, back up, and that's when she hit me. And I didn't get. I don't want to push you, but I didn't get overtly physical. I was just trying to keep her away and not get hit. And then I got really loud, and like that's probably drew everyone's attention where I was going, you know, back up, get away, just give me a.
Okay, so you said you pushed her to create some distance, obviously, right? What happened after that? What got the scratches on your eye?
The phone.
The phone. So you pushed her and she hit you?
It wasn't like a push and she jumped on me. She was already, I don't want to, she was already swinging, and I was
multiple
a lot of angles, a lot of nails, a lot of rings.
Yeah, you got 3 scratches on your neck, you got 1 on your left side of your nose, you got 1 in your face here, and you got 4 blows leading over it.
So I just tried
So it looks like 2 hands.
Do you mind lifting up your right sleeve for me? I'm curious about something.
It's a little bit of nails. I suppose fingernails, but I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining about
Is it
fingernails.
bruised or tender or anything like
No.
that?
Okay. I'm fine, and I love Gabby. I hope she doesn't have too many complaints about me. I'm just, I feel bad I had to get so public. I was just trying to be loud to listen. This is, try to make her calm down and be like, look, everyone's watching. And like, stop this.
Meanwhile, the secondary officer is interviewing the independent witness.
How are you? Hey, we got this van stopped, and we've separated the male and the female, and we got both of their stories. Now that we're not looking for them so intensely, I was just wondering if you had a minute to just kind of repeat to me what it is exactly you saw.
No problem, sir. Yeah, so I was talking to my friend across the street near the Forest Service building, and I just noticed that this couple was sort of arguing a bit, and I wasn't staring at them, but it did catch my attention, and what I noticed is it seemed like they were sort of squabbling over a phone. I want to say that he was trying to grab her phone, and I'm not sure exactly why, and then it seemed like he had sort of blocked the one side of the van and sort of wasn't letting her in, and then the male was stepping into the driver's seat, and she was trying to get into the van, and you could said something about why you being so mean, something like that. And I remember she sort of hit him a few times, and it wasn't like slugs in the face, but just kind of like two kids kind of fighting. They reminded me of very mature, I don't know, children sort of fighting. But there seemed like something was off, and it seemed like a weird vibe. And yeah, eventually it was like, you know, she crawled into the driver's seat, sort of like got into the vehicle over his lap, sort of forced her way in, I guess. And then they were in the car, and then they just drove away. So I wasn't sure what the nature of the argument was or what. It just seems like there was some sort of disagreement and some sort of like shutting. I don't know why she would have entered through the driver's door. I thought that was strange. And yeah, so I thought about calling it in, but as soon as I walked up this bar, there was another gentleman who was already calling it in, so I was like, oh, good on you. That seemed a bit off. I wasn't sure what to do in that situation, but that's what I saw, and if there's any other specific questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
Did you ever see the male strike the female?
I would say that I think I saw maybe a push or a shove, but not like a full-on punch to the face or anything.
Was the shove was the shove or push an aggression towards her, or was it a defensive maneuver away from her or to get her away from him?
That's a good question. It was unclear what was going on to me, but it did seem like he was. It seemed like he was trying to close off the passenger side of the vehicle and close things up. It almost seemed like he put that backpack or something on the back of the vehicle, I'm not sure. And then he was stepping in and she was out trying to get in. So maybe,
okay.
I don't, it was, the whole thing was off. And so, no, I didn't see anything that was like him chasing after her or hitting her or vice versa. There was it was kind of light and they were almost kind of laughing. And I wasn't sure if they were just joking around, to be honest. But then it got more strange as he was in the vehicle, about to drive off.
But you did see her slapping him, though, it sounds like.
Yes, it was like, my memory is he was in the driver's seat, and she has the driver's door open, and she's like kind of hitting him either in the arm or maybe on the face, maybe with an open hand, like, hey, let me in, don't be a jerk, something like that.
Okay. Well, you know, your story is really, really helpful because you're an independent witness, and we've just interviewed both of them. And what you're saying is making everything make a lot of sense. So I really appreciate that I ran into you and that I was able to get your number and talk to you. So thank you very much. If we need to ask for a written statement, obviously it's voluntary, it's helpful, but at this point I don't know if we need to go that far unless you're around and super willing at this moment. I can meet you and get a statement.
Yeah, no, I live here, totally willing to do that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Maybe I'll just go. Yeah, I can go write it down now before memory fades. Because, like I said, I was kind of just casually observing, but something did seem off, and just wanted to make sure that no one was in a bad situation. So. Where
can we find you to give you a form real quick? Look, I'm going to speak to you frankly. I have a daughter almost your age, and I'm looking at you not so much like a suspect, but also as kind of a victim, in the sense that you're dealing with some struggles emotionally and mentally at your age. Probably they'll work themselves out as you get older. There's a lot of angst at your age, and I remember being your age too. And hopefully it works itself out. But the stuff you did today that contributed to this, because you both contributed to this, is as a result of your inability to cope with the anxiety and the stress that you're having. So in a way, you're kind of a victim of this. I think you would have done better if you had the skills to do better. But you don't learn skills until you learn skills. And you don't have enough life experience yet to know how to navigate everything. Like, I don't either, but I can navigate what happened. If I was in your shoes, I could handle it different because I'm 39 years old. I've been through it. But I've got a lot of life lessons to learn still because I'm like my dad and my grandpas, they know stuff I don't know, right? They can do stuff I don't know. So in a way, I'm just letting you know that we sympathize with you. But based on what you've said and based on what our witness has said, and even based on what your fiance has mentioned, trying his very hardest not to have you in any trouble, he does have marks on him that witnesses say were caused by you slapping him. and that even you say you slapped him and were aggressing him first. And I don't have anyone saying that he actually punched you aggressively. It sounds like it was shoving in a manner that was probably more consistent with trying to prevent you from entering the van or to get space from you, not to assail you, if that makes sense. So if the tables were turned and he was beating on you and you were shoving him, of course we're going to look at it like, oh, of course she's defending herself to get away from this guy. Well, we're kind of looking at the same way with him, and we have to treat both fair, even if he's a bigger male and you're a smaller female. The law doesn't say, hey, Officer Pratt and Officer Robbins, you can treat people different based on gender under the same, so we can't. Even if it makes no sense that because you probably could not physically destroy this man the way that he could if he attacked you, we can't treat you different, okay? So all that long-windedness I'm giving you right now is leading up to the fact that if I pull someone over for speeding, I have the right to give them a warning. I have something called officer discretion. But in the legislature in Utah, they have made a law that if we have a domestic assault, they don't trust the police to make good decisions because too many cops have made bad decisions. So they say, we're not going to give you discretion. We're going to write a law that says if you have a domestic assault, whether it's male on female or female on male, whoever the primary aggressor is has to be charged. No choice. You don't get to give them a warning. It doesn't even matter if they're barely hurt at all and the guy doesn't want to press charges or the girl doesn't want to press charges. We don't have a choice. We literally have no choice. He does not want to press charges. He says you guys are a team. He says you're his fiance. He says he loves you. He says he doesn't want anything to happen. But we're explaining to him that we don't have any choice in this. So we're trying to get a local victims advocacy group called Sea Haven to get him a hotel for the night so that you can have the van, because they won't give you the hotel because you're the one who is the primary aggressor. So they're going to consider him the victim, so they're going to get him a hotel. So he wants you so that you don't have to go to jail, because the only thing we can do is take you to jail. He says, well, so she doesn't have to go to jail, then I will accept Sea Haven's help if they'll give me a hotel, and then she can have the van so she doesn't have to go to jail, she can just have a ticket. When you get the ticket, it's going to give you a phone number to call, and they're going to give you a court date, and that court date will probably be online.
Do I have to come back to Utah?
No, it'll be online.
Oh.
You have a smartphone?
Yeah.
So you can. I go to court. You're okay.
Sorry, I've never heard of this. I didn't know
Yeah.
this was in
When
Utah.
COVID happened, they switched all the court from in person to online. So when I go to court now,
I have a ticket for hitting the curb or something, please, because we're okay. Like, where does it?
I understand, but we don't have any, like. Listen, if I had any discretion in this, I would separate you guys for the day and just give you warnings to stop hitting each other. But I lawfully don't have discretion here. I don't have any.
Because somebody said something, like a witness said something.
There's two witnesses, and then there's what you said and what he said, and guess what? It all matches nicely that you were the primary aggressor, and that the injuries he has were caused by your aggression towards him. Even if he doesn't feel hurt, even if he doesn't want to press charges, there's nothing any cop can do about it. It's written into the law.
I know, but I don't.
Normally we take people to jail, but he's trying to work it so you can just have the van. Tomorrow,
I don't want to be separated.
You gonna have anxiety?
Yeah, no, we're a team, please.
There's no what? What is it?
No, like, we're a team, please. It's gonna give me so much anxiety. Can we just have like a driving ticket?
Okay, the very best thing I can do is call my supervisor and see if I'm missing something here.
Because if I'll pay any driving ticket, a parking ticket, anything.
Okay, Gabby, try to calm down, and I'm gonna go call a supervisor. But I don't think that there's much I can do, but let me see if the supervisor can tell me something I'm missing to make this not happen.
I couldn't handle that, I'm sorry.
A tiny little girl, 22 years old, slapped her boyfriend, her fiance, several times. He's got a little bit of a little tiny abrasion on his chin, on his jaw. They got into a van and drove off. He got called in by there's one caller and then a witness. Got them stopped. The story from the witnesses matches the story from the female, matches the story to the male. She was pissed off, she's having a rough day. He tries to separate from her. She's not staying away from him. She has severe anxiety problems. He locks her out of the van, says you need to go for a walk and cool off. She's forcing her way into the van. She's clawing her way past him into the van to be with him. He's shoving her to get her out of the van, but he's not assaulting her or he's not assailing her. He's trying to keep her out. She's punching, slapping, everything. She's got to be 105 pounds soaking wet, 22, full of anxiety, having a really tough time. Not making excuses, but I mean, it is written into code. We do have a domestic assault here. He's not wanting to pursue it. He's very adamant. He does not want to pursue it. We're explaining we don't have any discretion on these things. We're giving him a no contact. We're letting Sea Cave and see if they can get him a hotel so she can have the van, so that we don't have to put her in jail. She's really struggling with the idea of being alone and not with him and not having the van. They want to be together. I told her, look, there's not anything I can do. This is all written into freaking statute. I just said the last thing I can do is call a supervisor and see if where this is such a minor. There's like a slap fight, and the injury is from a fingernail. I just don't know if it's worth the whole domestic thing or not, or if it's going to get us in trouble if we don't do it this way. Well, they don't want to, but I told them that unless I get some kind of permission some other way, I'm pretty sure this is just statute and that we have to separate you. As far as the domestic assault charge, what do you think about that? Well, I mean, do the whole thing or not? But is there a way to not do anything on something like this? I mean, it's so minor. It's hard to say, right? I'm going to go reread the statute and just see if it fits or if there's a way it doesn't fit. And if I can find a way that, because it really is this. The spirit of the law is being lost on this one. It really is. So let me see what I can find, and if nothing else, then we'll have to separate them whether she likes it or not. Bodily injury means physical pain, illness, or any impairment of physical condition. So let's see. He's not ill. He doesn't have an impairment of physical condition. And if he's not in pain. Like how far do you want to go with this? Like, you know why the domestic assault code is there. It's there to protect people, especially, the reason why they don't give us discretion on these things is because too many times women who are at risk want to go back to their abuser. They just wanted him to stop, and they don't want to have to be separated. They don't want him charged. They don't want him to go to jail, and then they end up getting worse and worse treatment, and then they end up getting killed. Mm-hmm. In no way, shape, or form that I can perceive does what happened here, a little slap fight between fiancés who love each other and want to be together, can I perceive that this is going to digress into the situation where he's going to be a battered man?
Right.
But then again, I don't have a crystal ball. So I was looking at I talked to the assistant chief to see if there's any way to just go less than than the full force domestic assault route.
Right.
And he says, look, I mean, you either go all the way or you don't. And it's like, okay, but under what circumstances can I not? And really the only time I cannot is if it doesn't fit. If it fits, then it's in the law, then you have to do it. So I went and I looked at the code for assault, because this is an assault enhanced with domestic assault. Utah Code assault. Now you and I both know what it is, but think of how valuable it is to look it up and read it word for word, especially when what you're doing is going to get evaluated by a court who cares a lot about words. Words are there for a reason. Assault is an attempt with unlawful force or violence to do bodily injury to another. So did she attempt to do bodily injury to him?
She went to smack him.
Was it her intention to do him bodily injury? Now, that's what we have to find out, because it says bodily injury is, that by definition, physical pain, illness, or any impairment of physical condition.
Well, he's got a swollen right eye.
We don't care what the result was, we care about the intent.
So we gotta go find intent.
If she did not intend to cause him pain or illness or to cause him impairment of physical condition.
Was it intent and attempt, or intent or attempt?
When you're attempting to do something, you have to intend to do it.
True.
If I attempt to get a basketball through a hoop, I have to intend to do it. Intent is implicit with attempt.
Right.
Okay, so what was her intent? What was her intention? If you go ask her, what was your intention when you were slapping him, and she says, I wanted him to hurt or be ill or impair his physical condition, then there's nothing we can do.
Okay.
One way to word it might be, hey, when you slapped him, were you intending to cause him physical pain, and let's get rid of illness because that has nothing to do with it, physical pain or impairment of his physical condition? Was that your intention? Is that what you were attempting to do? That's what it says right here, an attempt.
Right.
Were you attempting to cause him pain or an impairment of physical condition? Whatever she answers to that question will seal her fate. How you answer this question is going to determine what happens next. But the only person who can answer this question is you.
Okay.
Think very hard before you answer the question. Do not quickly answer it. Think very hard. When you slapped him those times, were you attempting to cause him physical pain or physical impairment? Was that what you were attempting to do to him?
No.
What were you attempting to do? What was the reason behind the slapping and stuff? What was it you were attempting to accomplish by slapping?
I was trying to get him to stop telling me to calm down.
Well, it doesn't sound to me like she attempted to injure him. It's your call. This is 100% your call. I support you either way.
This is what I'm going to do. I've decided I am not going to cite you for domestic violence battery, okay? It was only going to be a Class B misdemeanor. However, the domestic violence portion of it enhances it. Makes life a major pain in the butt, especially you're 22, right? So I'm choosing not to cite you today. So you are not going to be charged with it. Alright? But this is what I do have to do. I am separating the two of you tonight. Okay? I want you guys both to be tonight away from each other, relax, breathe, crying, because there's no reason to be crying now, okay? I understand that this can feel like it's a nightmare, but you're coming out as the golden flower on top of it, okay? So, you're going to be taking the van tonight, and you're going to go somewhere else. I am going to get him lined up for the hotel room tonight. I want you guys to stay away from each other. For both of you guys the same. From what you told me and what he told me, you guys have a bunch of little things that are building up, and finally the little string that you guys were tight walking on broke tonight. Does that sound about right? So, I just want everybody to breathe, get a chance away from each other, go eat a meal, talk to your parents, whatever it is you gotta do.
In here?
On August 19th, the pair published an 8-minute video to the YouTube channel Nomadic Static entitled Van Life, Beginning of Our Van Life Journey. On August 23rd to 24th, Gabby's stepdad and mother reported they last spoke directly with Gabby over FaceTime on or around August 23rd to 24th, during which time Gabby told them they were leaving Utah and driving to Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. On August 25th, a picture of Gabby is posted to her Instagram captioned Happy Halloween. On August 27th, Gabby is last seen alive inside a Wyoming restaurant. On August 30th, Gabby's mom reports receiving a text message from Gabby's number that read, "No service in Yosemite." On September 1st, Brian Laundrie returned to his home in Newport, Florida, driving the white Ford van registered in Gabby's name that they had been using for their trip. He arrived without Gabby. It wouldn't be until 10 days later that the Petito family would report Gabby as missing. On September 15th, police named Brian Laundrie as a person of interest in the missing persons investigation, citing him as the last known person to have been with Gabby prior to her disappearance. Chief Todd Garrison of Northport PD pleaded with Laundrie's lawyer, Stephen Bertolio, asking to arrange a conversation with Laundrie, who had said he advised his client not to speak with the police. Meanwhile, Grand Teton National Park worked with investigators from the National Park Service, FBI, and local LEOs to find Gabby. On September 16th, the case was still being treated as a missing persons investigation. Joseph Petito, Gabby's father, made an appearance at a press conference pleading to the public for any tips and help from the community to help find his daughter. He, along with Gabby's mother and stepfather, made a plea directly to Laundrie's parents, begging them to assist in the search for Gabby. On September 17th, Laundrie's parents reported to the police that they hadn't seen their son since September 14th. On September 18th, Northport police reported they had begun to search Carlton Reserve, a 25,000-acre park 13 miles from Northport, for Laundrie, when his family reported they believed he had gone earlier that week. Meanwhile, the FBI reported they were still searching Grand Teton National Park and the Spread Creek dispersed camping area for Gabby. On September 19th, human remains were found in a national forest consistent with a description of Gabby Petito, but could not be confirmed to be her until a forensic investigation could be completed. After combing through all 24,565 acres of Carlton Reserve, the police reported that they still had not found Laundrie at this time. On September 20th, the feds executed a search warrant of Laundrie's home in Northport, citing that the search was in fact related to the investigation. On September 21st, a forensic investigation of human remains found in Wyoming confirmed the remains to be that of Gabby Petito, the manner of death being homicide, and Northport police resumed their search of Carlton Reserve on this date. On September 23rd, a federal arrest warrant for Laundrie was unsealed in Wyoming, the charge debit fraud, a single felony count of using unauthorized access devices related to a Capital One bank debit card. On September 26th, a public memorial service is held for Gabby with over 1,000 people in attendance. On September 28th, Petito's family lawyer issued the following statement. The Laundries did not help us find Gabby. They're sure not going to help us find Brian. For Brian, we're asking you to turn yourself into the FBI or the nearest law enforcement agency. In response, the Laundrie family attorney replied, Chris and Roberta Laundrie do not know where Brian is. They are concerned with Brian and hope the FBI can locate him. The speculation by the public and some in the press that the parents assisted Brian in leaving the family home or in avoiding arrest on a warrant that was issued after Brian had already been missing for several days is just wrong. In the time that's passed since Gabby's initial disappearance, everyone, and I do mean everyone, has had their take on the matter at hand, yours included, and it's definitely spurred a conversation or two. I have heard everything from missing white women syndrome to the negative influence that psychic TikTokers have to the sheer amount of lack of coverage that most missing person cases get in our nation by our news media. All lovely video topics for another time, I am sure. They all have their true crime narratives that they want to spin from this true crime story. But the prevailing question has been, what more could have been done for Gabby? At least, that's what I keep coming back to with people. From her friends, to her family, to the police officers who responded to the domestic disturbance back in August, why did no one intervene in what apparently, to us now, was so obviously a toxic, abusive relationship? Supposedly, the signs were there, everywhere, glaringly obvious. You'd have to be blind to be able to not see them. I'd rather we take our lens with which we frame this tragedy and reposition it to look at an aspect of human nature that so often, and ironically enough, given what we're discussing here, goes overlooked by we, the people, the collective, civilians and police officers and professionals alike. A knowledge that so often becomes jostled by situations but is never quite confronted head-on by the individual themselves because it is so uncomfortable. But first, some history for you. It is not unorthodox for police officers to miss or to willfully ignore information that could lead to saving the life of someone in a bit of a domestic entanglement. Sorry to say. Unfortunately, this is true. I wish it weren't, but it is. In fact, the officers do a pretty good job of relaying that fact while discussing the statutes that legally obligate them to charge the aggressor in a domestic situation in the state of Utah in the Moab police body cam footage. They went through painstaking efforts in this case to ensure that Gabby would not be charged and held under that very statute.
How far do you want to go with this? Like, you know why the domestic assault code is there. It's there to protect people, especially the reason why they don't give us discretion on these things is because too many times women who are at risk want to go back to their abuser. They just wanted him to stop, and they don't want to have to be separated. They don't want him charged. They don't want him to go to jail, and then they end up getting worse and worse treatment, and then they end up getting killed. Mm-hmm. In no way, shape, or form that I can perceive does what happened here, a little slap fight between fiancés who love each other, want to be together, can I perceive that this is going to digress into the situation where he's going to be a battered man?
Ironically enough, it may have prevented her from the fate that awaited her a short while later. But as I said, police missing clear signs that something is amiss is not unheard of. It's early in the morning on May the 27th, 1991, when Milwaukee officers John Belserzak and Joseph Garbish arrived to a scene with a fire ambulance, 3 women, and 2 men, one of which was apparently in a disoriented state. Naked, bruised, apparently bleeding from his rectum under the heavy influence of narcotics, and speaking only in a foreign language. Because of his addled state, the apparently afflicted party was unable to communicate with the officers in a language that they understood. The 3 women worked to convince the officers that the boy was in grave peril. However, the other older gentleman present at the scene informed the officers that the boy was in fact his lover, the 19-year-old John Hmong, whom he had left drinking in their apartment while he'd been out getting more beer. Convinced that the incident had been a mere domestic squabble, and despite the state of Mr. Hmong, the officers sent the ambulance away, dismissed the concerns of the 3 women, and took the 2 men back to the older man's apartment, where he showed the officers photos of Mr. Hmong modeling in black underwear, while the subject of the photograph sat on the couch quietly. One of the officers noticed a slight smell of fecal excrement wafting through the apartment, but paid it no mind. The officers left the 2 men to their own devices shortly after, listing the call as a mere domestic squabble between homosexuals. Within an hour of their departure, John Hmong, whose real name was Konarak Synthasumphone, would be murdered by way of hydrochloric acid being injected directly into his brain by means of an already existing drill hole. His mouth was used post-mortem for oral sex by the older man, who would go on to dismember and keep his skull. Despite his death in prison in 1994, Jeffrey Dahmer's name will live on in infamy for the Milwaukee Police Department, in particular due to the utter embarrassment that this incident caused, leaving the public with a pretty reasonable question. Why didn't the officers intervene? Now, while it is important to recognize that officers of the law should be trained to better determine when an instance requires their intervention than your average citizen, the severity of a situation and thus the best course of action, we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge the very real discrepancy humans have when it comes to seeing, hearing, and even going so far as to acknowledge when a situation requires third-party intervention, people. It's one thing to revisit a situation after the fact and judge having more information than the individuals involved in it in that moment. It is quite another thing to live the situation itself, breathe it, and much less take up the responsibility to act in that moment. It is 3:15 a.m. on March 13th of 1964 in Kew Gardens, Queens, New York City, when a woman parks her red Fiat 100 feet from her apartment door in the Kew Gardens Long Island Railroad Station parking lot after a night of bartending and managing. She is followed by a man armed with a hunting knife who had followed her all the way from a traffic light on Hoover Avenue. She was overtaken by the man as she approached her door and was stabbed twice in the back. As she was stabbed, she screamed out, "Oh my God, he stabbed me! Help me!" And a neighbor shouted back, Let the girl alone! The attacker ran away while the girl made her way towards the rear entrance of the building, very seriously injured. 10 minutes later, the man returned, shadowed by a white-brimmed hat, to finish the job. He systemically searched the parking lot, train station, and complex, eventually discovering her lying in a hallway at the back of the building, half conscious. He locked the door to prevent her from going inside and proceeded to stab her multiple more times before raping her and taking $49 from her. The subsequent investigation yielded that the attack on Kitty Genovese, perpetuated by Winston Mosley, spanned a duration of half an hour. Knife wounds suggested that Kitty made attempts to defend herself. She died while en route to the hospital that night. An article published by The Times 2 weeks after the fact stated that 38 witnesses saw the murder and didn't call the police, later amended to 37 due to an error. In 2014, Kevin Cook, author of Kitty Genovese, The Murder, The Bystanders, The Crime That Changed America, stated that number was actually closer to 49 witnesses. However, the takeaway question remains all the same, regardless of the number of witnesses. Why didn't anyone intervene? If you think that a simple fix would be to, attach a trained psychologist or psychiatrist who can assess the muddled circumstances we as humans find ourselves in on a daily basis and pierce right down to the very core every time to see just how wrong a situation is, well, you can think again. The summer of 1971. It is August 15th, 1971, when the first official day of an experiment funded by the U.S. Office of Naval Research officially begins, with 12 of the subjects being arrested for mock charges of either robbery or burglary. With the assistance of the Palo Alto Police Department, full booking procedures were simulated on mock prisoners, complete with fingerprinting and mugshots. They were transported to a mock prison, where they were then strip-searched, given inmate ID cards and uniforms. The other 12 subjects, playing the part of prison guards, were instructed to call the prisoners by their assigned numbers, rather than their names. And over the course of the next several days, circumstances would quickly dissolve as the prisoners would rebel against their new overlords, prompting retaliation by the guards, who would spray them with fire extinguishers, remove their mattresses and clothing, and place the main instigators in the hole. The prisoners suffered humiliation at the hands of their guards, who forced them to do push-ups arbitrarily, restricted their access to the laboratory, and 2 of the prisoners, of the 12 that had initially began the study, began to break down emotionally and had to be removed from further participation in the experiment. It was on day 5 that Christina Maslach came to the prison, and upon witnessing the mock experiment, challenged the lead psychologist, Philip Zimbardo, on the ethics of the experiment, and the apparent abuse of power by the guard and the negligent oversight of him in his position as superintendent of the mock prison. The Stanford prison experiment was cancelled due to growing concern and outrage over the brutality exhibited by guards in the experiment. The question, why didn't anyone intervene? And so, we find ourselves here, with a true crime story that has gone absolutely viral. And all of a sudden, and I shouldn't laugh, but it is slightly amusing to me, the prevalence with which people become experts in human behavior overnight. Everyone is a domestic violence expert all of a sudden. What, you can't recognize the obvious signs of distress in a victim, despite her insistence that she is to blame? She is the instigator? Where have you been? What are you doing with your life? Everyone is a psychologist that specializes in either narcissism or antisocial personality disorder and can pick a murderer out of a crowded room before the murder even happened. We have all these mentalist Patrick Jane wannabes who can tell a person their entire life story, one they've never met, based off of a few nervous laughs, some ill-timed jokes, and the type of leather their belt is. And don't even get me started on the psychic TikTokers. Okay? Everyone is obviously Sherlock Holmes incarnate, compared to the bumbling boys in blue in the Moab PD. Am I right, chat? I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is that these officers in this domestic incident, given the information that they had to work with, given to them by both parties and by the third-party witness that was interviewed, achieved what they could for Gabby and Brian in this instance. The point of this video is to remind people that we are only human, that everyone here, police officer, average civilian, psychological professional can be oblivious, either willfully or unknowingly, to the signs of a crisis in progress, regardless of how obvious or straightforward the situation may seem. As I've demonstrated to you throughout this video, people have died with a lot more obvious signs of distress than we witnessed in those body camera videos. Now, that's not an excuse, okay, to not intervene, that you can feign ignorance, that you should feign ignorance. It just means that people are not always on the level of awareness that everyone else is about a situation. Yes, you should always intervene. The bystander effect is real. Don't diffuse your responsibility. If you feel that you should intervene in a situation, do it. Go with your gut feeling. But if your gut does not give off that feeling, in some cases, what can you do? Hindsight is 20/20. In Gabby Petito's case, there were officers of the law who have these types of interactions every single day, most of which don't usually result in homicides. I can almost guarantee you that. In Jeffrey Dahmer's case, the officers blatantly disregarded all the apparent signs of distress and threw whole witnesses in favor of a serial killer confident enough in his own charisma to tell the officers to go ahead and pop their heads in his bedroom on the floor of which lay a bloated corpse of his previous victim. Almost 50 civilians witnessed Kitty Genovese getting attacked by another. Not one of them could bring themselves to physically help her in a moment of crisis, to leave their house and go, "Hey, are you okay, ma'am?" Philip Zimbardo was a triple major in psychology, sociology, and anthropology in Brooklyn College, graduating summa cum laude, conducting an experiment focused on human behavior, and it took an outside third party to get him to see that his experiment was speeding headfirst off the rails. It is really easy to judge a crisis with the benefit of hindsight. What's difficult is to know what the right decision is at any given point in time. And what is even harder is living with yourself after the fact, in the event that everything goes to hell in a handbasket. I don't know what happened with Gabby and Brian to get them to where they are today. But whether or not anyone in their life at any given point in time could have seen that coming is not for us to judge. Looking at those officers and judging them for not seeing what would eventually become a likely homicide seems kind of ridiculous to me. So that's where we are. Humans are dum-dums. They don't know how to read social cues very well. And everyone's an idiot.